Hello everyone, and welcome to CTL's Education Professional Development Series. My name is Anna Roach, Sales Partner and Operations Support here at CTL. If you are not familiar with CTL, we've been headquartered in Portland, Oregon, providing innovative IT solutions to education and government customers for over 26 years. We're a Google for Education partner specializing in rugged CTL Chromebooks, laptops, convertibles, 2-in-1s, and tablets designed specifically for K-12 education. Over the last 2.5 years, we've worked with Google to introduce a line of CTL Chromebooks that have been recommended by PC Magazine as the best choice for Chromebooks in education. As part of our commitment to education, CTL offers free professional development webinars on a variety of topics relevant to K-12 ed tech. Today's webinar is Digital Citizenship for Students, presented by Blanca Duarte of Logic Wing Professional Development and Technology Consulting. Before we get started, I'd like to review the attendee interface so you know how to participate in today's event. You should see something that looks like this on your own computer desktop in the upper right-hand corner. You're listening in using your computer speaker system by default. If you would prefer to join over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You may type any questions into the questions pane of the control panel during the presentation, and they will be addressed in a Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. But before we begin, I'd like to take a poll to learn more about our attendees today. Do you feel that your students are familiar with the concept of digital citizenship? I'll give folks a minute to fill out this poll. All right. Okay. It looks like 17% say yes and 83% say no. Before I turn over to Blanca for our presentation, I would just like to remind everyone about some resources for Nevada Ready 21 educators. When you visit the nr21.ctl.net website, you can learn about upcoming professional learning opportunities, sign up for updates about upcoming events and information, and join our Google Plus private community for Nevada Ready 21 educators. I would now like to introduce Blanca Duarte of Logic Wing Professional Development and Technology Consulting.
Great. Thanks, Anna. You're just going to make me a presenter, and I'm going to share my screen. Great. Alrighty. So hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I know that you are all sitting at the edge of your seat for a conversation about digital citizenship, especially since the poll showed that we feel and we know that our children really are not, while they may be familiar with the term digital citizenship, they don't necessarily know what that means. And I think sometimes as adults we struggle as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. One thing I want to make sure of is we like to do and have participation from our group. And so we have set up a today's meet. If you want to open up another tab on your browser and type in today'smeet.com/818 for today's date, GigiLit. That would be great. This way, as we go through the presentation, there'll be times where I'll stop and I'll ask you some questions about how you feel digital literacy should be taught, what makes a good digital citizen, and we can get some ideas from the group. Okay. So today we're going to cover a little bit about what defines a good digital citizen. We're going to talk about some central themes of digital citizenship, some ideas for schools and educators in terms of helping students really develop good digital citizenship skills. We're also going to share a few implementation examples, how schools have addressed helping students learn about what it means to be a good digital citizen. And finally, I am going to share some of our favorite resources. There's plenty of resources on the internet, and so it can be a little bit confusing. There's also places where you can actually order some free tips on how to talk to your kids, and even booklets as you begin the school year, helping parents understand what some of those concepts are as well. I'll give you a moment to read this quote. Mike Ribble is well known for a website around digital citizenship. He spent 3 years on his dissertation, kind of defining the term, talking about what it means to be a good digital citizen, and his website is really, really incredible. But I love the quote because it gets down to the heart of what digital citizenship is. And if we talk about what makes a good citizen, you'll see how this makes a lot of sense. Students need to be educated on how to be good citizens of their country and what their rights and responsibilities are as members of society. When we talk about digital citizenship, we're talking about the same responsibilities, the same knowledge and skills that kids need to have. And so as teachers and educators, we need to make sure that students learn how to be responsible and productive members, not just of their community, but also of their digital society. So what is digital citizenship? Well, it's knowing appropriate behaviors and norms. What is acceptable in an online world? How do we communicate with each other well? How do we make sure that we are acting fairly and responsibly? So the act of being responsible online. Understanding copyright, understanding that plagiarism, and things like streaming media from a website that's allowing you to stream copyrighted material isn't the right thing to do. Digital citizenship also encompasses ICT skills, those information and communication technology skills that we just need to be able to manage our world, being able to type on a computer, understanding copyright again, understanding how a computer works, how to troubleshoot. These are all important skills that 30 years ago didn't really matter much, but in order to really participate and be an active contributing member of society today, we really need to make sure that our children have those skills. Okay, so I'd like for you to go into the tab in today's meet and put down what you think. Give us some terms or some phrases about what you think makes a good digital citizen. I'm going to put in my own terms. I'll give you a moment. And if you need to go back to, let's see, to that link, I have it there. What do you think makes a good digital citizen? contributor, not just consumer. Awesome. Being able to research online, being cautious. Absolutely, the ability to navigate the internet responsibly. Okay, understanding what some of those controls are. It was interesting the other day, my nephew, who's 17, asked me about the dark web, and you know, it led to a really good conversation about whether he should go and try and figure out and find it. So these are things that, you know, sometimes parents aren't aware of, sometimes educators aren't aware of, and when we get questions like that from kids, even if you don't have the answer, the dialogue, I think, is really important. Understanding limits, absolutely. So that brings another kind of recent memory to mind. I was speaking to a group of students, and I think this is an idea for you as well. You'd be surprised how open kids are when you ask them about the internet and how they feel and their use of technology. But I was doing some student focus groups, and every grade band of students, so I had 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12, said to me that they themselves put limits on the use of technology in their daily lives because they saw that there were some days they could get lost in watching television for hours or watching YouTube videos, and they missed things like going outside and being able to play sports or just drawing with, you know, pen and marker. So, so it's important to have those conversations with kids. To put it into context, digital citizenship means things, well, if you go to Michael Ribble's site, he talks about these 9 elements, these 9 themes that digital citizenship falls into. And those themes include digital access. So being able to have access to the internet is important in today's society. We live in a knowledge-based society and a knowledge-based economy. You will find it very difficult to make money if you can't find information. So digital access is absolutely critical to being a digital citizen. Digital commerce, so understanding how money changes hands. How many of you have had children who ever went to the Club Penguin site? So Club Penguin is a social media site. A lot of times parents don't realize that as children interact, it's a website where you're a little penguin and you basically interact with other penguins, right? There's a place where they can play games against each other. There's even an online store. And so while we may or may not realize it, our children are using games that even look, you know, very child friendly to learn about how to exchange money online at very, very young ages. Club Penguin is really targeted to almost that 3 to 8-year-old group. And so digital commerce is really important. If you know what Bitcoins are, that's commerce that's actually used online. It's like online money. And so in the future, that will be something that kids will really have to understand and be able to use. Communication, we know, is really critical and important. How do you create messages online where you're communicating clearly? Even designing those messages is really important. Digital literacy, digital etiquette, that goes back to behaviors and norms. As a society, what do we allow people to do online and what will we not be tolerant of? Respecting the digital law, things like copyright, making sure that we're not stealing content. Rights and responsibilities, health and wellness, and then finally digital security, which really speaks to how important it is for children to understand how to keep their information safe. As more and more of us use software to manage our finances, to get access to personal health records, that theme of digital security is really important. And so we have to make sure that our children understand that as well. So I just gave you 9 themes that we have to think about as educators. things that we have to figure out how we're going to embed in our daily classroom content, to make sure that when our kids leave us, that they understand how to communicate responsibly, fairly, and well on the internet. Before I give you some ideas about how to do that, I'd like for you to hop back into today's meet and tell us some of your ideas. How do we help children learn skills, norms, and behaviors of a good digital citizen? And I'm sure that many of you have had to deal with this, whether it's because you happen to be a computer teacher or a coach, and so you get asked about helping children with technology and then how to speak to them about acting responsibly. But there's lots and lots of ways that we can help kids learn how to be a good digital citizen. Okay, I'll just give you a minute to do that. And if you need that link again, I'll put it up there for you. Okay. Modeling. Model, model, model. That's my motto. It is really important that when we work with kids, whether they're using technology or just trying to iron out a disagreement between themselves, that we model a good digital citizenship skills. This means that, as frustrating as it might be when you are trying to use the computer and a website is stuck or the internet is slow, that you're not kicking the computer in front of them and getting frustrated. Why? Because it's very easy for children to pick up those bad behaviors. And so as frustrated as we are, we go to our plan B and with a smile on our face, and we help them understand that technology, just like anything else, sometimes doesn't work the way that you want it to, and there's always more than one way to get the information and do what it is that we need to do. So modeling, absolutely. I think also including parents in the conversation, as somebody mentioned, really, really important, because parents didn't grow up with, well, some parents did, but not all parents have grown up using technology from the time they were 5, right? So we have this huge disconnect between parents of children who seem like they can navigate technology well. They might not know what it is to be a good digital citizen because they don't understand what those norms are. They don't understand what's acceptable and not. And if they haven't had access really to lessons that have given them a safe place to try something out and fail, or have a conversation about why something they did was not an acceptable norm, then they grow up to be young people who really, while they may be able to text each other on a phone or find Netflix on a television screen, they really don't understand what it means to be an active contributor of society. But have no fear, there are some great resources out there that can help us do this as educators. One of the resources that we'll concentrate on heavily today is actually Common Sense Media. So Common Sense Media is a nonprofit organization really dedicated to helping parents, educators, and students understand what it means to be a good citizen, digital citizen. And I'm just going to click on the link. And oh, this is yummy. This is a hamburger. So it takes us to the main Common Sense Media site. Common Sense Media, in addition to having wonderful resources for educators, things like scope and sequences and curriculum that we can follow, it's also a site where families can go to do things like look at family guides around videos. They want to take their kids to a movie, and they want to know if that movie is appropriate for a 7-year-old. And so parents can go into family guides and take a look. There's a collection of videos, and videos that can help to provide educators with content when they want to talk to kids about what cyberbullying means, or what some of the language is, appropriate language for communicating with others. Okay, and some of these are animated. like this one here, and some of them are students who are talking about a particular scenario, perhaps a cyberbullying scenario, and others are actually teachers and educators talking about the importance of teaching digital citizenship. Okay, so these are videos that you can bring into faculty meetings. These are videos that you can show in the classroom with kids when a question comes up. And so I strongly urge you to take a look, and they're all kind of coded here and tagged so you can find what you're looking for quickly. Okay. Another resource that's very, very helpful in the Common Sense Media site is the Digital Citizenship curriculum, complete with scope and sequence. So I don't know how many of you have used this before, but they really give you some wonderful lessons that you can use either as standalone lessons. Perhaps you want to dedicate one class every two weeks to helping kids learn how to navigate the internet safely, or perhaps you want to take a look at some of the lessons, for example, strategic searching, while you're in the middle of helping kids create a report around a particular topic. Okay, so all of these lessons are available as PDFs. Beautiful. They also align them with Common Core standards. And they always give you some additional lesson material. These are available mostly in English and Spanish, but these are great resources that you can hand out either at a school night or that you can hand out at the time of the lesson just for kids to bring home to make their parents aware of what they're doing. And we'll come back to the Common Sense Media site in a little bit. I also wanted to share some ideas for schools, educators, and the classroom. We talked about modeling appropriate behavior as one way to help students really understand what it means to be a good citizen. So I wanted to share some of my favorite folks online who have done a great job of modeling appropriate behavior. Dr. Tony Sinasis is an old friend, and he has done a wonderful job really showing how he makes learning visible in his school. Okay, and right now what you're seeing are some of the images that he tweets using social media to help parents and community members understand what is happening in his school, how teachers are learning, and also how students are learning. Okay, here he is talking about Pokemon Go. And I'm just going to go a little bit fast because I know that he's got, well, that didn't work so well. He's got pictures of students learning. I love to tell this particular story because I found it really so endearing. Last year, he walked into a classroom of students that were practicing the violin. And he doesn't know how to play, but he decided that he was going to learn how to play with them because he really felt that it was important for them to understand that he knew what it was like to have to learn something new. And so he actually took the time. Every time he had a few moments, he would hop into the violin class and he would practice at home, and he would tweet himself. So he would tweet pictures of himself practicing, and he actually did play in the band at the end of that school year, which I thought was fabulous. So he's making learning visible. He's showing what kids are doing. He's showing the great work that, that teachers are doing as well. What he's showing us is how to use social media in an appropriate way. There's another teacher who's a kindergarten teacher. Live from Room 5 is her website. I don't think she has a lot of pictures from the summer, so this is good. And what she loves to do is she loves to show parents what she's doing with kids and working on during the day. These must have been some end of school pictures. What she also does is she'll include in her blurb on Twitter, she'll include a question that parents can ask their kids about what they did. So they're not during that day, so that they're not always asking kids, oh, so what did you do in school today? And you get that standard old, nothing, not really, nothing. So, so she's even got questions that parents can use to communicate with her, with their kids, and talk about school. Another great social way to kind of share what's going on in your school district is also to have maybe a Facebook page or an online page where people can communicate and they can like things, and parents can stay informed. So modeling appropriate behavior really starts at the school and district level, you know, showing what kids are doing, showing how, you know, how wonderful teachers are working with their kids, etc. Some ideas for the classroom. So a lot of times teachers get uncomfortable because they think that once they start using things like social media, there might be instances where children are not acting appropriately, or they're posting a picture that isn't something that should be shared, etc. And so we say, you know, include those teachable moments. You should have expectations about how technology is being used. You should have an acceptable use policy, and you should have somewhere in your acceptable use policy or student handbook what happens when students act inappropriately. And so while your first gut feel may be to send them to the dean, it might be that you have some teachable moments, that you get into a conversation with kids, or you ask other kids to explain how they feel and why they thought it was inappropriate or appropriate. Some of the schools that I've been in have actually had a place where students go and they, when something inappropriate happens, they go into like kind of a peer mediation room, and the student who has done something that's not deemed fair or right has a conversation with their peers. And so instead of punishing the behavior, there's a lot of questions that are asked to try and find out why it happened and how it won't happen again. Also ask for student input. There's no reason why we can't get students, especially our middle school students, who are all going to have devices, why we can't ask them to set up expectations and appropriate what happens, you know, if somebody does something inappropriate. Give students opportunities to create and manage public websites. So while the design of the website might not be what you want it to be, it certainly gives students opportunities to share what they know and use technology in a creative and responsible way. Student Corner refers to the name of a newsletter that of a school that I've seen. So students are responsible for getting the word out, or you give them a little section of the school newspaper or school newsletter, again, to help them start to use technology appropriately and to give them a way to give their voice. Some other ideas about implementing lessons that deal more with curriculum. So as you're planning, or as you have your curriculum planning sessions, an ELA department may decide that they want to bring in the librarian at certain times during the year, especially when they're working on, right before the kids are working on research papers, or right before they're doing research on specific topics, so that the library media specialist can reinforce that there are databases that can give that child access to information more readily than doing a Google search. There's also a research tool in Google. If you are in a Google Doc or a Google Slide, you can go to Tools, Research, and students who in the past may have had to have 3 or 4 tabs open to download images and put them in presentations. The way the research tool works is you're able to find information and pull it into your document, which then creates a footnote citing where the information came from. So a great way to teach how to give credit to content. Okay. Science, there was always interesting science news about emerging technologies or wearable technologies. So take opportunities, of course, to include that in your discussions with students. Computer tech and engineering, same thing there. And I always love math because, you know, people should get excited about numbers. And so recently there was a Common Sense Media presentation that came out that had a lot of numbers included in it. It's a resource I've included in this presentation at the end, but you know, you have the number 9. You can ask the kids, what do you think the number 9 means? Well, believe it or not, on average, teens are spending 9 hours using media. 9 hours a day. That's longer than they spend in school. And so getting kids excited about collecting them, you know, research themselves, have them do surveys in school, and try and get them to, you know, help develop those math skills that you're trying to work on, I think can be really exciting. Some other ideas. These are more lesson type rather than long-term, but I've had students create a word cloud. So they grab all of their statuses on social media, whether it's Twitter or it's Facebook. There used to be a great tool that would do it automatically with your credentials. There isn't anymore. But have them create a word cloud of the way that they want the world to perceive them. You kind of do that first. And then you have them create a word cloud of their actual statuses and have them compare it to each other. And you'd be surprised. You can do it yourself. You'd be surprised about what people don't realize about themselves. Perhaps kids who are always posting negative things on social media don't realize that over time that really becomes their online footprint. You know, and so people who don't really know them well might think that person's always, you know, saying negative things. They must be a negative person. So it's important for kids to understand that everything that they're posting online, from their statuses to their pictures, are creating this digital footprint. And so the sooner they realize that, and that's how the world perceives them. And if you do it early enough, they can start to really clean up their digital footprint and be the person that they want other people to see them as. Google yourself. This is kind of a fun activity. I've tried this a bunch of times in school. You can do this yourself. Again, you can Google yourself and you'll see if other people have your name. I know someone who has the same name as a famous rock star. So it's not so bad when you're a rock star. Not so great when you share the name with another famous person who might not be an outstanding citizen, right? So you can have kids Google themselves again to kind of see what persona people may assume. The other thing that you can do is you can actually have spend some time where you partner kids up and you have them Google each other and then come up with a profile of each other based on what they find online. That's always really interesting. I've also seen lessons where kids put an artifact out there. Maybe it's a drawing that they've made or a poem, and they pair up with another student, and that other student then takes that artifact, puts it into their own mini presentation, and shares it. And kids really feel uncomfortable because what starts to happen is they start to realize how not giving credit to someone else's creative ideas or images or photographs or words, how that might be, that could be an issue. Okay. One of my favorite websites to take kids to also when I'm trying to teach them about how everything that they post online is important and doesn't disappear is I take them to the Wayback Machine. And if you've never been there, it's just an awesome site. So you can go to the Wayback Machine and they basically have archived at a point in time websites that include pictures and content. So if you go to the Wayback Machine, actually I'm going to show you because I think it's so much fun. Okay. You can actually show kids what Google looked like 9 years ago. So you put in a web page that you want to take a look at, and let's see, it's slowly getting there. Here you go. You get a little map, and it says that the website google.com was saved 56,000 times between November 1998 and today's date. And they give you a little timeline here. I'm just going to click on 2000 and find a date to pull up, and you'll see, and this is really amazing for them to see as well, that just because they delete a photo today, it doesn't mean that that it really ever goes away. So this actually doesn't look too bad, and it doesn't look too different, although my page is still loading. But I think you get the idea. If you've ever not had a chance to take a look at that website, definitely take a look at it. Okay, and there's lots and lots of ideas as well online. I'm also a big believer that you can use media to teach media. So this is an example of what one school did. So the Richland 2 school district, which was one of the first school districts that had to use Chromebooks and had the largest, I think, deployment of its time. I think it was 19,000 Chromebooks. What they've done is they have this film festival that they do every year, and they allow students to submit their film, and they win prizes. But it's a great way to really get kids excited about using technology, and then it's an opportunity for teachers to teach technology. So in this case, you have a film festival that actually drove the use of technology, so learning how to create a film, but also drove the conversation about helping kids understand what digital storytelling is, how to convey a message, and how to use their skills to produce something that is then shared with the public and becomes something that is a part of their digital profile. These are just some examples in the presentation of videos that both Common Sense Media and iKeepSafe have for you to talk about different aspects of digital citizenship with kids. So in this particular video, and I won't play it for you, but this child loses his scholarship because he ends up at a party in college where he has a full scholarship for baseball, and someone takes a picture of him drinking a beer. And that picture goes viral, and he loses his scholarship. So he talks a little bit about that. This is one of the videos that talks about what a teenager's life looks like today. This young lady estimates that she spends 8 hours a day online. The average, of course, is 9. And she tells us what happens. She goes through all of the different tools that she uses and apps that she uses on a daily basis. And this one has to do with online talk. So what does a child do when they're on Facebook and someone pops up and wants to be their friend that they don't know? This one also has a young child that was on Skype that was all of a sudden solicited, added a friend, started chatting, and inadvertently, because she was young and nobody had ever talked to her, maybe she was 11, she's sharing all of this information with someone that she doesn't know. So again, I think using video to really help kids develop a sense of what being a good digital citizen is, and to help develop those digital literacy skills is kind of a good way. They love video anyway, they love media, so these are different ways that we can help them. Okay, so what are some things that we can do as a school to help our parents and our students understand these appropriate behaviors and norms? So I've got 3 implementation examples. I know that each of you in your schools is going to be a part of a parent workshop to help parents understand the Chromebook implementation and how school is going to change and how learning is going to change for students. These are 3 ways, possible ways that you might or could do it. The first way is to have a parent workshop, whether it's a half day or a smaller event or a series of workshops like a parent university. You could have a workshop series that teaches parents about those different themes in chunks. Okay, so the goal of something like that, of a workshop series, would be to help parents understand the way that their children are using technology, to help them see that technology doesn't necessarily, while you may want to put limits, it isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm sure that you've come across parents who are very nervous about giving their children access to computers all day long. And so these workshops help to educate parents about the benefits and also make them aware of the things on the internet or the different apps that might be harmful, or that they maybe should take a look at to make sure that their children are using it appropriately. Who's usually involved in that kind of workshop series? Teachers and admins, of course. Sometimes we bring in, right, a local enforcement official to talk about some of the dangers. You want to make sure that you are also counteracting that with the positives of using technology. We don't want to scare parents. You know, we are living in a digital world, and so the same way that we teach our kids to cross the street, if you've heard Jamie Cassup use that example, it's our responsibility to help kids navigate the internet. You know, I also encourage you to get students involved, and of course your technologists in the school. Another implementation example is to immerse a lot of the different activities or the skill building exercises into your course curriculum. This requires more work, of course. It requires more planning. It requires that you have the time to build in those activities throughout the year. This certainly goes beyond having a one-day lecture from a guidance counselor or a technology professional in your school. Okay, so this also, immersion in course curriculum is really, it's the teachers working with students and their administrators. And then another implementation example is, of course, the use of digital software to help kids learn those skills. So I would say the biggest difference for me between digital software and immersion in course curriculum is if you are building in activities throughout the year, you're doing it just in time, right? You're teaching research skills right before kids are doing a research project. Digital software will of course touch upon a lot of the themes that we mentioned earlier, but if they're not structured to align with the course curriculum, then you may be teaching those research skills or internet safety. In one part of the year, you know, there's like a checklist, okay, I've done this, and then the conversation doesn't ever come back. So I think using a combination of these three models is good, but you know, it's going to take some time. I think in the first year, you've really got to have some conversation about what you can do as a school and as educators. Okay, I'm going to send everybody off to use one of the Common Sense Media resources, Digital Compass, which is kind of a game that kids can play. It's a little bit unstructured in that the teacher doesn't necessarily know which aspects kids or which parts of the game kids have gone through. But before I take you on that journey to play around with that particular tool for a few moments, I'm going to pause. And Anna, I just want to know if anyone has asked any questions yet.
You know, we do not have any questions, but I had a question for you, Blanca. With many students researching online for reports and projects, how can teachers help to inform them about copyright and fair use laws to prevent kids from cutting and pasting from a source?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So I'm going to just open up. I'm going to open up a Google Doc and show you some of the tips and tricks that I've come across. And we're just going to use one of these documents. That's a template. So one way to help kids understand how to cite information is actually to use a tool in Google Docs, right? Assuming that kids are researching online and they're going to use Google Docs to collect information. There's a tool called Research. And what Research allows you to do is it brings up a little dialog box on the right-hand side where kids are able to search for information right in the document. Now, why is this important? Well, for one thing, it allows them to stay inside of a document, not get lost in tabs. The minute you open up a tab, you might get some kids who get distracted and end up on different websites, so it kind of keeps them in one place. I'm going to do research on stem cells, okay, because that's, I know, a topic that gets covered. And I'm able to, if you notice, hopefully my screen isn't too small, but you'll notice that I typed in the word stem cells, and right away on the right-hand side I get web results. Okay, and as I hover over the different web results, I can actually insert the link. So let's say I went to this website and I found that it had some good information that I was going to summarize and use in my presentation. I could do one of two things. I could insert the link, okay, for where I found the information, and there's a little button that says Cite. And when I click on Cite, right, so this is after I've collected some information, I can go in here and click on Cite. Automatically, there is a footnote that gets generated with my citation information, which I think is really awesome. Because working with kids for so long, I find that one of the reasons why they don't cite information is because they forget to write it down, or they don't know the format. So one way to help kids understand how to cite information is to use the research tool. But how do we teach them the importance of copyright? I would go back into the Common Sense Media website, and I would look for information about copyright. There are different types of licenses in addition to copyright law. So look at, okay, I'm just going to flash this on the screen for a few moments.
In today's digital world, it's easier than ever to copy, paste, mash up, remix, download, and publish content. People's writing, artwork, videos.
Okay, so one way to help kids understand copyright and fair use, if you're an educator and you're not really 100% sure about copyright law, is actually use some of the great resources on Common Sense Media. Not just the videos, but if you look over here on the right-hand side, you've got a video discussion guide, so questions to ask kids. This educator blog actually talks about the copyright law that was established. There are also different ways to license your work today. So there's something called a Creative Commons license that kids need to be aware of. So never mind talking about copyright and fair use, which we haven't done a very good job in the past of doing, but now there's this whole other set of Creative Commons licenses. What I would do as a teacher is, as my students are creating materials that they're going to publish on YouTube, or perhaps I'm going to share on a web page, I would go through those Creative Commons licenses and teach kids actually how to apply those licenses to their work. That's another way that we can help kids understand the importance of copyright and fair use.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
All right. So I'm going to put a link in the Today's Meet portal. And I would like to give everyone just about 2 or 3 minutes. I know that we're running close to the end, but I'm almost done. But I would like you to have an opportunity to take a look at this particular resource from Common Sense Media. And again, this is when I talked about what are some ways to help educators teach digital citizenship skills, and software is definitely one of them. I would take a look at some of the software that's available on the internet to help kids really learn those skills. And Digital Compass, there's something called the Digital Passport, which is for a younger group of kids. There's also an organization called Everfind. They're also a nonprofit that has built out modules to help kids learn digital citizenship skills. So we'll give you just a moment to take a look at Digital Compass. And it's kind of fun. It's not too babyish, I think, for a lot of our kids. Okay, and if you want to keep that open on your machine so you can take a look at it after today's presentation, by all means, feel free to do so. Okay, so I'm coming back to the presentation, and I am going to wrap it up by sharing some resources with you. So I did already talk about common sense media and common sense education. And like I mentioned, Digital Passport is another game-like resource that you can use. All these resources are free. So by all means, take a look and meet with, even the coaches in that Google Plus community can talk about how they're using these resources. And then we've got Digital Bites, which are a series of lessons for kids who are a little bit older. But the grade levels are just approximate, right? So you might have a class where you see some great lessons for 9th or 10th graders that you can show to 8th graders. So, or you might have kids who maybe are struggling with language. The Digital Passport actually might have simpler language, so that might be a better resource. I mentioned Everfind, and again, you can take a look at that. In Everfind, the teacher actually creates an account for the student, and they can see the different modules that the student has completed. So if you've got students who are comfortable in an online environment, you can always create the modules and kind of leave them open-ended with a certain number of modules expected to be completed by the end of December or by the end of the year. Another one of my favorite resources is Netcetera. So the Netcetera website actually allows you to, for free, order materials that you can distribute at Open School Night or those parent workshops talking about digital literacy. If you Google Netcetera, you'll find them right away. But we will send the links out for you when we share the presentation. And you'll see how easy it is if I click on free resources. It takes you to a website where you can, let's see, where you can bulk order. Okay, and some of these also come with in Spanish and English. Okay, so you can get bookmarks and different booklets. Finally, Google and iKeepSafe have actually partnered together to create Google Safety Center. So it's all about staying safe while you're using Google tools. And Google has created a YouTube and digital citizenship teacher's guide. So if you are a teacher who's going to be using media in the classroom, or a coach who's going to be focusing on creation of videos, they actually have lesson plans, complete with video and resources to help kids learn how to use media safely. Okay, so there's safety modes, there's cyberbullying resources. So plenty of content. You're not gonna be short of any resources for digital citizenship. The bigger question is, how do you want to roll it out in your school, and what are going to be some of those key opportunities where you have parents and students together in a place where you can actually help them learn some of the terminology and get tips and tricks on how to speak to each other about staying safe and being good digital citizens. All right, and I think that's all I have. Again, lots of online resources. So if anybody has any questions or want to share any ideas that they have with the group, this is the opportunity. So what we can also do is, for those of you who want to ask the question in today's meet, you can hop into today's meet And why don't you just share with us what resource or what ideas have been most helpful? Is there anything that you think you might want to do right away, or?
Blanca,
Yes.
we did have a question on what are some good ways for classrooms to create positive online communities rooted in trust and respect. Are there some games and activities that could help with this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So some of the ideas that I shared a little bit earlier,
Right.
I think ideas for the classroom. Here we go. So some of these lesson ideas, I think, are opportunities for educators and for students.
Yes.
To really test that, test what it's like to use social media for learning, or to even look at their own social media profile.
Great.
Okay.
All right.
All right, everyone. Well, you have our email address. We have our online community where we can share some of the ideas that that we're implementing in our classrooms. And as always, we're here to help you as much as possible. So don't be afraid to ask questions.
Okay, great. Thank you, Blanca. And thank you for everyone for attending today's webinar, Digital Citizenship for Students. If you have any other questions, please contact me at the email you see on the screen. Once you leave today's webinar, you may receive a certificate of completion by visiting the link you see on your screen. You must fill out the entire survey in order to receive this certificate. This survey will help us to gauge the effectiveness of those webinars and improve your professional learning experience. So please take the time to give us your feedback. And please don't forget to visit our nr21.ctl.net website for news and information for Nevada Ready 21 educators. A link to view a recording on today's webinar will be available within 24 to 48 hours on nr21.ctl.net /recorded-webinars. On behalf of CTL and our presenters, thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of your day.